We travel not to escape life, but for life not escape us. Good day, I'm Princess Espadaya from base HM1C. I will present to you the history of tourism and hospitality industry in the Philippines. So, let's go! So, hi guys, I'm back. I'm just take a bath because I'm so sweat and ew. So, let's proceed to our topic. The history of tourism and hospitality industry in the Philippines. First, history of the tourism industry. Early tourism. Travel and exploration are basic to human nature. Man has traveled since the earliest times, although the term tourism was used only in the early 19th century. Tourism is derived from the Hebrew word Torah, which means studying, learning, and searching. Tourism can trace its ancestry in
Oh my God! Wow!
the Old Testament. Noah with his ark must have been the first large-scale operator, even though his passengers were mostly animals. There are numerous references to caravans and traders in the Old Testament, chapter 26 and 27 of the book of Ezekiel. Early tourism has two forms: travel for business such as trading and religious travel. Throughout history, merchants have traveled extensively in order to trade with other nations and tribes. The invention of money, writing, and whale by the Sumerians facilitated travel and exchange of goods. The early Phoenicians toured the Mediterranean as traders. Both Greeks and the Romans were well-known traders. As their respective empires increased, travel became necessary. At this time, there was also travels for private purposes. Examples: Olympic Games held in 776 BC by the Greeks. Travel for religious reasons to took the form of pilgrimage to places of worship such as Chaucer's tales of pilgrimage to Canterbury. Besides Rome and Jerusalem, St. James was the foremost destination of English pilgrims in the 14th century. Beginning 1388, English pilgrims were required to obtain and carry permits, the forerunner of the modern, which is passport. Second, tourism in the medieval period. During the medieval period, travel declined. Travel, derived from the word travail, became burdensome, dangerous, and demanding during this time. After the decline of Roman Empire in the 50th century, roads were not maintained and they became unsafe. No one during this time traveled for pleasure. Crusaders and pilgrims were the only one who traveled. Third, tourism during the Renaissance and Elizabethan eras. With the Renaissance, a few renowned universities developed so that the travel for education was introduced largely by the British. Travel for education became popular in the 16th century. Under Elizabeth I, young men seeking position in court were encouraged to travel to the continent to widen their education. This practice was gradually adopted by others in the lower social scale. In time, it became recognized that the education of a gentleman should be completed by a grand tour of the cultural centers of the continent, which lasted for 3 years. The term was used as early as 1670. While apparently educational, the appeal became social. Pleasure-seeking young men of leisure traveled predominantly through France and Italy to enjoy the culture and social life of Europe, with the Venice, Florence, and Paris as the key attractions. By the end of 18th century, the practice had become institutionalized for the upper class of society. As young men saw intellectual improvement in the continent, the sick saw a remedy for their illness in spas or medical baths. Spa is derived from the Wallon word ispa, meaning fountain. Thornbridge Wells in the Kent near London became famous as a spa in the 1660s. Soon, entertainment was added and the dozens of watering places became resort hotels. Bath in England, Baden-Baden in Germany, Baden in Austria, Bain-les-Bains in France, Lucca in Italy, Carlsbad and Marienbad, and the Bohemia became fashionable in the 18th and 19th centuries. Fourth, tourism during the Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution brought about the major changes in the scale and type of tourism development. It brought about not only technological changes but also essential social changes that made travel desirable as a recreational activity. The increase in productivity, regular employment, and growing urbanization gave more people the motivation and opportunity to go on holiday. The emerging middle class combined higher incomes and growing education into annual holidays. To escape from their responsibilities in the crowded city environment, they traveled to the countryside or seashore for their holidays. This led to the creation of working-class resorts near major industrial centers. Fifth, modern tourism. The technological development in the early part of the 19th century had a great effect on the growth of tourism. These were the introduction of the railway and the development of steam power. The railroads created not only one more business by providing reliable and cheap transportation, but also more competition as various private companies invested heavily in hotels, resorts, and entertainment facilities. As the tourism became organized in the later years of 19th century, the organization of travel became an established institution. Travel organizers emerged. The first and most famous of these was Thomas Cook. His first excursion train trip was between Leicester and Loughborough in 1841 with 570 passengers at round-trip fare of 1 shilling.